It's Christmas Eve, and in this video, I'm going to talk about my top 10 books that are on my Christmas wish list for 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle. I hope you all are having a wonderful Christmas Eve, and in the spirit of today, I thought it would be a good video idea to do my top 10 books that are on my Christmas wish list for 2022. Now, this is a repeat video idea that I actually did last year on Christmas Eve, and I guess I plan on doing it every year on the channel. Kind of a fun way to talk about the 10 books that I'm looking to sort of spec on or invest in for next year. Now, tomorrow on Christmas Day, I'm going to revisit my list from last year to see how I did overall, which books I decided to pick up, which books I decided to pass on, and I hope you guys look forward to that one. But in this video, I'm going to talk about the 10 books that I'm looking to pick up next year for 2022. But before I get into the list, if you guys could drop me a like or a comment or subscribe if you're enjoying the content, help support the channel, do one of those things, I would appreciate it. But let's get into this right here. And of course, there are a few caveats here. I mean, this is a list of books that I think are actually attainable for myself next year. Obviously, I would like an Amazing Fantasy 15. I just don't know if I'm going to fork over 40 grand for it in 2022. So this is my attainable list, but let's start it off here at the number 10 slot. And the number 10 book is going to be Daredevil, number 8 from 1965, the first appearance of Stiltman. You guys know me. You guys know I love my B-tier villains, and it is actually a shock that I actually don't own this book. I mean, what kind of self-respecting B-tier villain fan has a collection without this book in it? Now, this is a book that came out in 1965 and has that incredible Wally Wood cover. I love the forced perspective on this, and it would just be great to have in a collection. Now, Stiltman speculation aside, we do now know that Charlie Cox is in the MCU. We're going to be getting probably a lot of properties with Daredevil. So I do believe that this is a book that is going to have a spike in value simply due to the fact that it's an early Daredevil book. I mean, I think a lot of the stuff in the Daredevil Silver Age run is going to get hot when we get an announcement that there's going to be a Daredevil show or movie or whatever they decide to do with the character. So this is a book that I would love to pick up for myself next year due to that. All right, going on now to my number 9 book, and my number 9 book is actually going to be Tales of Suspense, number 66 from 1965. And what is the significance of this? Well, this is the first appearance of the Red Skull, Johann Schmidt, in the Silver Age. Now, you guys might be thinking to yourselves, hey, isn't Tales of Suspense number 65 the first appearance of the Red Skull in the Silver Age? Well, you're not wrong for saying that, but that Red Skull that we got in that book is actually the George Maxon character, who effectively is the fake Red Skull. And in this book right here, this is actually the first time in the Silver Age that we would actually get Red Skull, the original Johann Schmidt, the one that, you know, we all know to be Red Skull, the one that was in the MCU, played by Hugo Weaving. And in some ways, this book right here, to me, might be one of the most undervalued Silver Age books there are in comic books. I mean, the comic book community has put a lot of value on first Silver Age appearance of characters. You know, Submariner comes to mind, FF4, Avengers number 4, first Captain America in the Silver Age. There's other books like First Khazar or First Catwoman, things like that. We've definitely put a value on first Silver Age appearances. And this right here is the first Silver Age appearance of the Red Skull. I mean, Red Skull, I feel like, is a top 5 Marvel supervillain. I feel like this is a book that should have more value overall. And so for me, this is a book that I actually want to pick up simply due to the fact that I think that if the community ever really catches on to this, or we get Red Skull back into the MCU in some kind of way, I really do think that this is a book that's going to get extremely hot in the market. Now, there is that inconvenient truth that, you know, Tales of Suspense 65 is believed to be the first appearance of the Red Skull in the Silver Age, but that's the fake version. So for me, this is the book that I want, and I would love to find kind of a high grade copy of this thing because it is actually so affordable. One of the other great things about this book is that it's actually considered the origin of Red Skull. So, you know, the comic book community already loves, you know, origins and things like that. So this book right here has that added value where we get the backstory of the Red Skull, you know, how he came up, how he made his way back here up against Captain America. And for that reason, I think that this is a great book to have in a collection. All right, moving on now to my number 7 book that is on my Christmas wish list for 2022, and that one is going to be Marvel Age number 97 from 1991. Now, if you guys know what this book is, you're going to know why I want it, but effectively, this is considered the first preview appearance of Darkhawk. Now, of course, Darkhawk, you guys know, is one of my favorite characters, and I have a ton of copies of Darkhawk #1. But this book right here is a Marvel Age preview that actually featured Darkhawk before Darkhawk #1. Now, let me get something clear. I don't actually believe that this book right here should be considered Darkhawk's first appearance. I truly believe that Darkhawk #1 is Darkhawk's first appearance. But with that being said, I'm not in control of what the market dictates. I'm not in control of how the market feels about these things. And my FOMO is starting to brew for this book right here. Because if we ever get Darkhawk in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like I think we will, and those books really start to blow up, this book right here might become the one that the market deems as the really exclusive book to own. And I would be kicking myself for the rest of my life if I didn't have a copy of this thing to protect my love of this character. So I absolutely need to have a copy of Marvel Age 97 in my collection. I gotta cover my bases with Darkhawk. I eventually need to get Darkhawk in a CGC slab, ideally a 9.8 grade. I might want to get this Marvel Age book right here, 97, in a 9.8 grade as well. And it would be really, really great to have these books in slabs. And speaking of slabs, let's take a minute to talk about the sponsor of this video, MySlabs.com. Now, for those who don't know, MySlabs.com is an online marketplace that specializes in graded collectibles. Now, the best part about MySlabs.com is you can see right there on your screen, 1% fees for sellers. So sellers can make better deals with buyers, and buyers get to keep more money in their pockets. I'm going to play this little commercial for you guys, and I'll see you on the other side.
Tired of paying 10%, 15% or more to sell your cards, comics, and digital collectibles? How does 1% sound? Too good to be true? Well, not anymore. MySlabs.com is the web's premier user-driven marketplace for buying and selling slabbed cards, sealed wax, and now slabbed comics and digital collectibles. So the next time you're forced to pay 10% or more to sell something from your collection, head over to MySlabs.com and join the 1% revolution.
Definitely go check out MySlabs.com. I know I will be checking it all next year, looking for all of these books on my Christmas wish list. But let us continue with my number 6 pick. And the number 6 book on my list is actually going to be Strange Tales #101 from 1962. And what is the significance of this? Well, to me, this is the ultimate collector's collector book. To me, this book represents the dawn of the superhero age. Now, I realize that there were superhero books before this one, but this one feels like a moment in time to me. Of course, it features that beautiful Jack Kirby, Dick Ayers cover featuring the Human Torch. This would be known as the Human Torch's first sort of solo ongoing story. And this is a book that I just love simply due to the significance of what it represents within context to the Marvel comic book superhero age. I love the trade dress of Strange Tales. I love the cover. I love the forced perspective. I love the design of it. And this is something that I actually want to pick up just for the PC. Now, this is a book that I don't personally feel has much speculative value. I mean, maybe when we get the Fantastic Four into the MCU, people are going to be chasing, those early Human Torch covers. That could be something that definitely creates a buzz for this book. But overall, I think that this is a book that is simply going to appreciate like fine wine over time. People are going to recognize that this thing is just a great collector's book to have. And I personally want to be in that club. So Strange Tales, #101, definitely a book on my list. All right, let's go on now to my number 5 book. And my number 5 book is actually going to be Uncanny X-Men #107 from 1977. And what is the significance of this? Well, this is the first full appearance of the Starjammers, first appearance of the Shi'ar Imperial Guard, and why I personally like this book, first appearance of the character known as Gladiator. And for those who don't know, Gladiator is that character who sort of is the general of the Shi'ar Empire. The Shi'ar Empire basically is like a Kree Skrull Empire, one of the big Marvel space races there are in the comic books. And I personally feel like all roads eventually lead to this book in some kind of way with the MCU. I mean, if we think about the landscape for the MCU, we know eventually they're going to be bringing in the X-Men, which is sort of like a global team. We know that there's a lot of exploration right now with Marvel space. We have the Kree, we have the Skrull. It feels like it's only a matter of time before they introduce the Shi'ar. I feel like Gladiator is an important character to the Guardians of the Galaxy. A lot of storylines converge with that sort of thing. So Silver Surfer also has a lot of interactions with Gladiator and the Shi'ar, and for that reason, I think that this is a really great book to have in your collection for the speculative reasons that I just stated. Now, this is actually a book that I had mentioned earlier in a video talking about undervalued, key books, but I've noticed that this book has gotten a little bit hot over time, and people do sort of charge a premium on this thing. But I have a suspicion that when I'm out hunting, I'm eventually going to be able to find this book being sold at a really good deal. And as soon as I see that thing, I'm definitely going to sweep it up. All right, let's go on now to my number 5 book on my Christmas wish list for 2022. And this one, of course, is, you guys guessed it, Avengers number 48 from 1967. And what is the significance of this? Well, of course, this is the first appearance of Dane Whitman as the Black Knight. Now, of course, you guys know I am trying to do my Avengers Grail run, and of all the books that I still need on my list of 1 through 100, this is probably one of the biggest. This is the one that gives me the most FOMO as far as not having my hands on this thing, because this is the one that I think has a lot of potential to gain in value, especially in this next year or two, or whenever we start to really get all of those Black Knight properties. Now, of course, the book already got hot coming off the heels of the Eternals, and now there has been a little bit of a correction. But this is still a book that sort of everybody knows to be, a book that is destined to be more valuable in the future. So every time I come across this one being sold in LCSs or through dealers, they always sort of have it priced at that speculative value, as opposed to like what the value I think it actually should be priced at, in this current market. But the rules I instilled for myself on my Avengers run was that I was always going to buy this book in person. So no sniping, late night eBay auctions for me with this one. So it's going to be a little bit hard to find out there in stores, but I have faith that I'm eventually going to find it. And when I do, I'm going to be happy that I have my hands on the Black Knight. And speaking of characters that got hot in Avengers books, of course, my number 4 pick is actually going to be Avengers number 57 from 1968, first appearance of the Vision. Now, this is a book that got extremely hot earlier in the year due to WandaVision, but there has been a little bit of its correction in these past few months. I've noticed this book being sold online at competitive prices, and this is something that I definitely want to take advantage of, because I feel like we're not done with the Vision in the MCU. In fact, I think that this is a character that is going to continue to have a long existence in the MCU. All right, going on now to the top 3 books that are on my Christmas wish list for 2022, all hot ones, all ones that I'm sure you know, but let's talk about number 3 right here, which is actually going to be Silver Surfer number 1 from 1968. Now, this is a book that I actually had on my Christmas wish list for last year, and it just never happened. I was never able to find the Silver Surfer book that was right for me. And one of the reasons for that is that it's just been so hot over this past year. I mean, it's such a great cover, such a great book. A lot of people want this thing. It's the big premiere issue. It's the origin of the Silver Surfer and the Watchers. It's the first appearance of Shia LaBeouf, who is, of course, Silver Surfer's love interest. And this one is a really hard one for me to sort of justify overspending on, because of the fact that I already own a lot of great Silver Surfer books. I have that Fantastic Four 49, his first cover, second appearance. Maybe one day I'll get my hands on Fantastic Four number 48. So it's sort of hard for me to dedicate my resources into this book right here, even though he's one of my favorite characters. There's just so many other books that I want. So for this one, I'm sort of just waiting to see if I can find that right deal, but it is definitely still on my wish list for 2022, and hopefully I can eventually find a copy before we actually get confirmation of him in the MCU. All right, moving on now to my top 2 books, and they are 2 hot ones. Number 2 is actually going to be X-Men number 4 from 1964, a book that I'm sure you guys are well aware of. But of course, this is the first appearance of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, second appearance of Magneto, first appearance of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and just a great early X-Men book. Now, of course, you guys know this is a book that got extremely hot earlier in the year due to the fact that we got WandaVision, but throughout the course of the year, it actually had a little bit of its correction. So now it's sort of hovering at a new floor. And this is a book that I would love to have in my personal collection. It's also a book that I would love to invest in. I really do believe that, Scarlet Witch is a great character who's going to have a long run in the MCU. I don't think that, it ends with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness with her. I think that they're going to do tons of storylines like House of M eventually. I also like this book because it is the second appearance of Magneto. And when I think about, X-Men books, I would love to have an X-Men #1, but I don't feel like I'm going to be allocating my resources to that anytime soon. So this feels like, sort of that early X-Men book that I would personally love to have in my collection, which brings me now to my #1 book on my Christmas wish list for 2022. And that book is actually going to be Journey into Mystery number 85 from 1962, First Appearance of Loki. Now, this is a book that I was actually looking to get for myself sometime around the end of 2022 before we got the Loki TV series. And at that time, I wish I pulled the trigger on one of those books because it was half the price of what it was today. And as you guys know, we got the Loki TV show, and this book absolutely went bananas, went to the total moon. Everybody was going for this thing. But like things do, out of sight, out of mind, this book has had its a little bit of a correction. I made a video some weeks back talking about buying the dip. Two of the books I talked about were X-Men #4 and Journey into Mystery 85. So two books that are on my personal radar as to wanting to buy the dip for. And I do believe that it is just that, just a dip. Because as we all know, they're going to be making a Loki season 2. And when we get Loki season 2, I think that this will be a book that definitely spikes up again. Now, the one positive thing I have going for me is that it doesn't seem like we're going to be getting Loki season 2 next year. I mean, there's been no confirmation of them deciding to shoot it. There's been no confirmation of when they're going to release it. They just announced that we were going to get it. So I actually think that it'll be a show that likely shows up in 2023, if not 2024. So I feel like I have a decent window to find this book next year. I think that Tom Hiddleston is going to play Loki, for the rest of his life in these MCU movies. So I think this is a book that is absolutely worth investing in and one that is going to continue to appreciate over time. Well, that is all I have for this video. Those are my top 10 books on my Christmas wish list for 2022. Let me know what you guys think. What are you guys looking for on your Christmas wish list? Are you guys expecting any grails to show up under your tree tomorrow? Let me know what you think. Drop me a like, comment, subscribe if you're enjoying the content. I hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas Eve, and I will see you in the next video.